Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today is this month's patron pick. Thank you so much to all of my wonderful supporters on Patreon. The topic that was chosen this month is, does Nevinyrral Urborg Tyrant work? Well, here's the card. If you don't already know the answer, go ahead and see if you can spot the issue. If you're having trouble, I'll give you a hint. It's not in the bottom ability, or the middle ability. If anyone legitimately got the answer without having seen this one before, I'd be pretty surprised. The problem is in how this card's hexproof ability has been templated. And to see exactly what's wrong, we'll take a trip to the CR and look up the rules around this ability. Okay, so here we go. Hexproof on a permanent means this permanent can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. But Nevinyrral does not have hexproof. It has hexproof from. Let's keep reading. Hexproof from quality on a permanent means this permanent can't be the target of quality spells your opponents control or abilities your opponents control from quality sources. Okay, nice, but hold on a second. Does Nevinyrral have hexproof from permanents that are simultaneously artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, or does it have hexproof from each of these individually? Well, it's pretty clear what the answer is supposed to be, but let's have another look. Hexproof from quality A and from quality B is shorthand for hexproof from quality A and hexproof from quality B. And that's the problem. It should say hexproof from artifacts, from creatures, and from enchantments. This is the wording that would correctly correspond to the intended functionality. Protection has a similar rule, and you can see that cards like Great Sable Stag, Auric Champion, and Oversoul of Dusk all feature the correct templating. And that's all I have for you today. Looks like there's more time in the video. I mean, truth be told, there's not a lot here. This could have been a YouTube short. I guess I have to stretch this out some. Did you know that Nevinyrral is sci-fi author Larry Niven's name spelled backwards? You did? Oh. Oh, all right. Okay, I'm not going to try and pretend I don't know what everyone is expecting me to say here. Blah, 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 WotC sucks. Blah, 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 why can't they get their own rules right? Blah, 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 Magic is dying, etc. Am I on the right track here? Look, I get it. It's frustrating feeling like WotC is putting legitimate effort into doing some parts of their job right, but not the parts that matter to you personally. It's annoying, but at least for this one, there's a reasonable explanation. Every change, be it a change to Magic's rules, a change to Oracle text, or standard templating, has a cost, and that cost is someone needs to physically go in and make that change, and before that someone needs to figure out what they're going to change it to. And even for simple changes, that process is going to involve doing a bunch of research to determine whether the proposed fix is actually going to fix the issue or if it will cause some other problem somewhere else. And once you get that far, you have to evaluate whether there are any other cards that are affected and whether they should be changed also and what they should be changed to. This isn't just a hypothetical. So, for example, let's say Dave, the well-meaning gray hat hacker, manages to make it into WotC's servers. Now I have the ability to make any changes I want to fix this situation here. Okay, so we'll just change the Oracle text to good old Nevi here, and I better make sure we get Volatile Stormdrake while I'm at it. Silly WotC, there's no such thing as an activated and triggered ability. Lol. Well, maybe we're not quite done here yet, because nowhere in the CR does it define the correct template for combining 3 different hexproof abilities. It only says how to combine hexproof from quality A and hexproof from quality B together into one. I mean, logically, if you wanted to add option C into there, then you would do it like this, like I did on the updated Nevinyrral here. But if I don't define that in the CR, then the same no-lifers who are complaining about the old template will probably be wanting that added in also. Ooh, look at that. It's the design files for the next set. Looks like they're printing a white card that has hexproof from all the other colors. Ooh, and gee, it looks like for IP-related reasons, they couldn't just have it say hexproof from each color besides white, which would already be defined in the CR. So maybe we should tweak that hexproof rule I wrote a little bit to account for that in the future. Uh-oh, it looks like WotC's real-time hacker detection software has spotted me. I only have a few dramatic seconds to get out of their network before I get caught, because that's definitely how it apparently works according to everyone in Hollywood. Okay, well, even if the hacking content was a little bit spurious, hopefully the message that I was going for really came through. And that thought experiment left another roadblock completely out. I'm just one person, so I can unilaterally decide what the best template to use is, or the best way to phrase something, or the best way to go anytime there's a decision that needs made. I don't have to convince anyone else that my way is the right way to go. Unfortunately, consensus building takes more time and energy. Now, Wizards can and absolutely does fix issues just like this. See, for example, their handling of Henzi Tor and Sarah Paragon, or the errata and wheel potential, or the interaction between reflexive triggers and Tishana's Tidebinder. Other cards or interactions, such as Season of the Witch plus Silent Arbiter, or various issues with Panglacial Worm, have been known about for years now and are no closer to being addressed. Now, I don't have any insider knowledge about the process, but if I had to guess, the decision comes down to factors like how well known the problem is to the general player base, how much impact there is on the competitive scene where players are more likely to expect the relevant interactions will have a specific defined correct answer, and maybe how big of a pain in the butt it'll be to generate a fix that satisfies people. Now, although the case involving Nevinyrral has a relatively promising score in the latter metric, the prognosis based on the first two is much less so. While getting Nevi to make a splash in competitive events would be a great way to start, I think if we're being honest with ourselves, that's kind of a non-starter. That being the case, the obvious course of action is to spam WotC's rules manager until this one gets addressed, thereby raising the score in the remaining category, right? Well, before any of you fire off any mean tweets or emails, hear me out. All right, I'm actually okay with a few corner cases like this. I know, get the unsubscribe buttons ready, but like I said at the beginning of the episode, no one was confused about how this card works. And in some sense, that means there's no problem. As players, it is not realistic to demand that the CR is written to the same rigorous standards that a mathematical proof or a computer program would be. It's okay if card wordings have multiple hypothetical interpretations if there's only one reasonable one. It's okay when the rules say that the turn order is clockwise, but don't specify that that's from the point of view of an observer above the table, not below. It's okay if cards use terms like left or right that have a similar issue. Yes, these are all questions from the True Stories collection, by the way. I also had a person who didn't know what a prime number was argue that 37 didn't count for Zamon all questioning because they thought the list in the reminder text was exhaustive. Or someone who knew what odd and even meant, trying to convince me that the CR should add language defining what those mean, and specifically that 0 is even. Now clearly there's a spectrum of relative importance of things getting fixed, and this spectrum can explain why sometimes your pet problem doesn't make it to the top of WotC's docket. Now, I don't think anyone from Wizards regularly watches my channel, but if I'm wrong, yes, please go ahead and fix the Oracle text of Nevinyrral to say hexproof from artifacts, from creatures, and from enchantments. And while you're at it, Volatile Stormdrake too, and if you're really feeling like going above and beyond, maybe edit the CR to make hexproof from thing a little bit more robust like I talked about. But really, I don't think that should be what's on the top of the list to get fixed. And based on the content of the rest of the episode, I imagine maybe some people are wondering what that is. And indeed, I do see a couple of problems that I would personally prioritize if I actually did manage to get into some sort of position where I could actually affect things. I'll give WotC a break on correcting the wording for sneak, which I talked about in my Mutant Ninja Turtles CR updates video, since they've publicly stated they're aware of that one and are actively working on a solution. In the honorable mention spot, I'll go with the conflicting definitions of a mana ability as discussed in my video about Toph and Caged Sun. Now, this is very unlikely to come up in a serious event, but it's also a fairly quick and easy fix in my view. In the number 2 spot, I have an issue related to effects that cause a card to move onto the battlefield and also have a continuous effect that applies to it once it's there. Do replacement effects that apply as a permanent enters the battlefield see such continuous effects or not? I talked about this issue in my video on Enduring Innocence plus Containment Priest. It's very difficult to justify the intended correct answer that these continuous effects are taken into account from the rules as written. In fact, I argue that support is stronger for the opposite position in that video. WotC's rules manager stated publicly about a year ago that the rules team was looking into this one, but there's since been no change in either the CR or the Oracle text of any relevant cards to the issue. Now finally, the biggest rules issue that I'd like to see fixed is a rigorous definition of what once per turn means, specifically as it relates to interactions where a permanent gains or loses such abilities. I talked about this problem in my video on Nadu plus Dress Down. It's ambiguous from a purely common sense standpoint whether having a Nadu leave play and then return would reset the twice per turn cap on the ability that it grants to creatures. Do the creatures have the same ability or a new instance of it? Now, there are several other permutations with non-obvious answers involving copy effects or cards like Dress Down, and the only guidance that we get comes not from the CR, but from the responsa posted on the personal Twitter accounts and Blue Sky accounts of the Magic Rules team. But that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Thank you again to all of my lovely supporters on Patreon. Join me again next time for another ruling. Until then, I hope you have a great day.